I'm going to pause the recording. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the New Mexico Small Business Development Center's webinar, Live Your Passion, presented by Julianna Barbee and Ryan Baca. Let me tell you a little bit about our panelists today. As Center Director for New Mexico Small Business Development Center Network for 22 years, Julianna is helping businesses to reimagine, repurpose, reinvent, and reignite their businesses. Julianna is assisting in job creation and economic development and is a certified national trainer. Working for SBDC as her third career. Prior to joining New Mexico SBDC, Julianna worked for ABC TV in Denver, Colorado, and also worked in TV in Phoenix, Arizona. Julianna had a 25-year career in broadcast television and marketing. Julianna and her husband started their careers in the television industry as anchors and reporters. Julianna also produced TV commercials, was an account executive, and worked with national advertising agencies. Together with her husband, they also own their own training business and work with small and large companies and present at conferences across the nation. Ryan Baca is a current business analyst in the government and public sector at Deloitte. His job function is human capital, where he focuses on organizational change management and currently serves the state of Michigan's division of HIV/STI in the implementation of their SHOARS Salesforce system. Ryan graduated from the University of Denver in 2020, where he received his BSBA in marketing with minors in business analytics and leadership. During his time at the University of Denver, Ryan was one of 88 students selected from a pool of 500 to be a member of the Pioneer Leadership Program. He serves as the Vice President of Brotherhood for his social fraternity and served as the Senior Vice President and Chancellor of his professional business fraternity. During his college breaks, Ryan interned at Los Alamos National Laboratory in the Human Resources Department. So those are our two lovely panelists for today. I want to go over some webinar ground rules with everybody on the call today. If you have a question, please type it into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer those at the end of our session. If you have something that you want to address to me, my name is Christopher Garcia. I will be in the background of today's webinar, making sure everything goes well. You could put it in the chat. And if at any time during the presentation something's going wrong, like we're on the wrong slide, can you raise your hand for me? And in fact, just to make sure everybody can raise your hand, can you raise your hand right now? Perfect. I lowered everybody's hand. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Julianna Barbee. Julianna, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to challenge you to make a commitment and to live a more purposeful life that has meaning and passion, that you'll be happier and even healthier. You know, there's always possibilities and opportunities, no matter where you're at in this life at this very moment, no matter what job you have, no matter what position you have. And we can't wait for that storm to be over. We all have to learn to dance in the rain. Right now, I was reading yesterday some statistics, and there's an epidemic of unhappiness in the workplace. 70% of people are unhappy right now with their jobs. We just recently saw that in March, the Great Resignation. The US saw a record of 4.53 million workers quit their jobs. And I think there was like 44% were planning to start a business, 43% were looking for remote work, and 41% were trying to find a job that they're more passionate about, something that is more meaningful. Those were the most important things to them. People want greater control over their lives, but they still need financial stability. So people are reevaluating, they're reinventing, they're reimagining their lives, their business life, and their personal life. People, we live in a really different landscape right now. And right now, I really see that even in business and in life, and I think we're all see it with the pandemic, with everything going on in the world, it's sort of one big experimentation. And everyone has had to learn to shift and pivot and move really quickly and learn and upskill. And so today we are going to be talking about living your passion. And before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about America's SBDCs. we have been seeing and assisting a lot of creative entrepreneurs that are emerging out of the life of the pandemic, and they're wanting to do what they do best, what they're more passionate about. They've been asking themselves the questions, what do they want to do from here to the rest of their future? What would they do if they could do whatever they wanted? We've had conversations like that with a lot of our clients, and that's the direction that it's taking. Today, I represent the New Mexico Small Business Development Center Network. It's your local, national, and global business resource. We have a team of SBDC certified experts ready to assist anyone wanting to start a business or expand or reimagine, all at no cost, and it's confidential. Today, I am really proud to be co-presenting with Ryan Baca. Good morning, Ryan Baca. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited that you are here, and we will both be sharing with you a little bit of our journey. I have been mentoring Ryan way back when he was probably, I think, in about 8th grade. And so you're going to hear a lot of his story and my story. You've got two complete generations coming together and what we've learned from each other. And today we just are going to share with you and hope that you're able to live a more passionate life in your business life and in your personal life. So Ryan, we are also going to get started with you. We are going to be starting with 7 ways to get on the path of living your passion. So Ryan, do you want to start us off today?
I sure do, Jewel. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking this time to make an impact on yourself, to get some inspiration, and to also just motivate yourself. There's so much going on in the world right now where sometimes we may feel a little uneasy, a little confused, a little misaligned with, where are our passions and what is my purpose, especially with so much of this tide that we have been navigating since 2020. And so I'm excited to go over my 3 keys for how I live a more passionate and purposeful life. I've had a lot of time to reflect over graduating in 2020 to now working in the professional corporate world. And with my story in going from college, from high school, middle school even, to high school, college, and now in the professional world, with the help of the SBDC, I've had ways of understanding how my vision aligns with my values and with my passions. And I hope that with our conversation today, you have some alignment with some of those keys as well. So the first thing that I want to mention in how I charge myself up is I do work that matters. I think many times today, a lot of us, and we see with the Great Resignation going on across America, across the world, people don't feel like what they are doing aligns with self-fulfillment and gratification. And when I look back at my life, I look back to 7th grade Ryan that was in charge, that was tasked with planning a trip to the zoo for all 7th and 8th graders at Carlos V. Hill Middle School. I was working with the budget and working with planning and coordination, working with the busing system to make sure all the students and faculty were coached over to the zoo. And my passion at that point was focused around people, around experiences, and around that moment, that shared moment that you can remember for the rest of your life. Pass it down a couple more years going into college, it was still that what I learned to be servant leadership, really focused in on doing work that impacts others, that makes others feel like they have this moment of gratitude and glorification. You want to uplift one another. And so as you can see through my story, my way of doing work that matters and living my passion is centered around supporting others, advocating for those who feel like they may not have a voice, or those who feel like they just need that little ounce of courage to believe in themselves, especially when it comes to work and small business, getting those creative ideas out. So that's the first thing that I recommend is do work that matters, work where you're inside saying, I'm proud of you and I'm proud of the impact that you've made. The second thing that I would say, especially now more than ever, is this idea of making your well-being a priority. There's so much commotion going on in the outside world. Sometimes you just got to take that step back and really listen to your body. activate more than just your mind. Go out and get some exercise. Go out and do some challenging ideas that make you think in different ways in life, and just continually just show up for yourself, because no one's going to show up for you more than you show up for yourself. And by making your well-being a priority, whether it be fitness or meditation or spirituality, whatever it is, make that a priority, because by making that a priority in your life, you're making yourself a priority. And that is what I have found has kept me afloat with everything that's going on. I graduated in 2020 when the pandemic started, and there was so much commotion with, we didn't get a graduation ceremony. We didn't know where we were going to work. A lot of offers were being rescinded just because of the status of the world. And by making my life a priority, I was able to kind of float instead of brace for impact. And I encourage you to think of life in that way. And the third thing that I will say is really just continue with that curiosity. I think when I look back at my life, going from 8th grade to when I started the mentorship with the SBDC, I was always curious. I always wanted to learn more. It wasn't just getting through high school for me. It's like, I want to challenge myself in different ways. I want to challenge my ways of thinking. And I also want to challenge my ways in how I can support and make an impact. And that has been imperative to my growth to this day. Even when I'm in, conversations with my colleagues at work, I'm continually asking those questions, because I'm only as good as I was, by those questions and by that growth. That growth mindset is so imperative to success, especially when it comes to business and when it comes to life. And with that, I want to swap over and give you guys some more inspiration. And so this photo I actually took on my drive back to New Mexico. I drove back to be with my family. I'm spending 2 weeks back home. I live in Denver now. But this photo just reminded me of the beauty of New Mexico. There's something so special about the summers in New Mexico, with how the adobe and the greenery from the trees, it just meshes together with the blue sky. And it's this vision of possibility and growth and peace. That's something you really don't get in the big city, if I'm being completely honest. And the red chili and green chili, but that's another conversation for another day. But my inspiration that I want to leave from those 3 key messages is this. And I hope that this continues on through our time together. But also, if there's one thing you take away from what I have to say today, it's this. All of you are in charge of your destiny. The people that you interact with, the moments that you create, those multiple moments that create memories for you, that is how you are going to see life and have this life of value. I think the most important thing too is, people a lot of times like to say, oh, well, my successes have brought me to where I'm at. And especially when it comes to life, professionally, personally, whether it be corporate America, small business, healthcare, education, a lot of times it's not the successes that define those moments, but the struggles and the failures. When I look at my life, a lot of my struggles and my failures have built my character and have made me view life in this way of, I just want to work so hard, and I want to make not anyone else proud, but myself proud. I want to show up for myself. And ultimately with that, you want to make it worth it. Our time on this earth is limited, and our time with certain opportunities, though, the opportunities are limitless, it's still limited in some degree. And you want to view life like that, because it gives you the energy and the initiative to act now. And with that, act now. I want to pass it back to you, Joel.
Hey, Ryan, before I get started with a little bit of what I'm going to be talking about, I'm just curious. You've been talking about destiny from your age, and I've seen from when you were in 8th grade to now. What can you leave everyone with? What would be that one takeaway of how you took charge with that destiny? That one takeaway, what just jolted you for that?
I think from a young age, I just always had this initiative. I had this fire in my belly that I wanted to do something that, I mean, if I'm being quite honest, I saw mentors like, Oprah Winfrey, well, Steve Jobs, I mean, there's some, with his character there, but, really focusing in on mentors who had this character that was driven by self-reflection and supporting one another. And Joel, even with you in 8th grade, 7th grade, you believed in me from early on. My parents believed in me. My team of supporters believed in me. And so I think it's a mix of having the initiative and the drive and having the support. Because at that point, from a young age, I thought that the world was so small and that I could just set out and accomplish whatever it is I wanted. And looking back on my drive to the college today, it's that same feeling. I still feel the same way. I have the support and I still have that drive and that eagerness and that curiosity.
And I think that's really key, Ryan, that you bring that up, because it really just fits perfectly to the next thing that we're going to talk about. And it's imagining what if, and the courage to imagine what if. And I have really, when I've been mentoring Ryan, I have honestly seen this happen. And so some of what I want to share with you is how you find a source of personal energy and you will have rewarding experiences. These are, I'm going to share with you 4 that have really helped me. And one of them is to get out of your comfort zone. We have to explore new things. And I think during the pandemic, everyone did that. Everyone was planning to do this, and this. And during the pandemic, we didn't have a choice. We learned very quickly. We all became our own IT person. You learned how to do things. We were thrown into virtual platforms, conferences, and you just thrown in and you learn. And that's how I think people learn best. And that's why I started the mentorship with Ryan, because I think it's so important to take people out of their classroom, out of their desk, out of their offices, and actually get in there in the real world and just start to experience and start to explore. And that's how you learn the best. Also, shifting your thinking is really important. Sometimes, depending, Ryan, mentioned people that you surround yourself with is so crucially important. If you surround yourself with a lot of negative people, people that are just having the barely mindset of barely pass by type of mindset, instead of how are we going to move forward? How are we going to make life better? Are we going to find a way? Those are the people that you want to be around, because you want to have that inspiration around you. And you can't be afraid to fail. What I have honestly learned through my long life so far is that failure actually makes you a lot stronger. You learn from those anything that happens. And if you are brave enough to sometimes stand up and do that, it's really important. I know in some of my presentations, I'm always sharing how when I was first in my broadcast class and we were having to do something in front of everyone, something that's so intimidating that you've never done before. But everyone that has moved forward always has the first time. And so you learn from those. So like Ryan had also mentioned before, taking initiative is really important. I have a diagram here of the comfort zone, and I really feel that this really does take you. So I think no matter what age we are in our life, we kind of go through this. But as you grow, you start to find your purpose. You start to really realize what you want to do and what excites you to get up in the morning and to give of yourself to somebody else. We've always heard, if you find what you love to do, you'll never work another day in your life, and you won't. It won't matter about anything else except for what you're doing. What really has motivated me, and I think, is asking myself, what if? And sometimes when people have life-threatening experiences, people change. People totally change, because all of a sudden the priorities start. So sometimes when my life feels like it gets cluttered, and I sometimes say yes to everything, and I've learned to say no to some things and yes to the more important things, you have to ask yourself, well, what if? What if this is your last time, your last day on earth? Is this going to be important? Is this going to make an impact? Is this going to help others? So asking myself, what if, always just straightens out the priorities. And it's not about you, it's about everybody else. And I've learned that with being an entrepreneur, being with the Small Business Development Center, helping others. Because when you are helping other people, that is the most rewarding gift that anyone can give, because then it has value. that you're able to change somebody's life one step at a time. So focus. I've also, I come from a family of volunteers and mentors in my family that have mentored me. Volunteering has been really important. And I know Ryan has also, he wasn't only mentoring under our program, he was volunteering for our fiestas, our community stuff. We're all involved in everything because we have a passion to give back. And so you want to pass that gift forward and have that self belief of everything. So then tomorrow, so when you guys wake up in the morning, take your temperature. And if you wake up and you want to be passionate about your life, about your work, does it show? So ask yourself when you look in the mirror, am I passionate today? What am I going to do today to change somebody's life? What am I going to do to make an impact? And so I just challenge you to do that. And if you've lost that fire, well, then you need to get around some fire lighters. And Ryan, you've been my fire lighter, because even though we've been all this time, there are sometimes we Zoom with each other and we get each other all excited and we get each other all motivated and we come up with all these ideas. And that's synergy. I mean, that's amazing what the things that can come up with that. So again, I just ask you guys to kind of go through this and go through your zone here and find your purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about my next two, which are number 6 is to as an entrepreneur. You know, you may be an entrepreneurial inside of yourself that you've never known, but you want, what I'm learning is changing that entrepreneur mindset also to a purposeful mindset. And how you do that, you're combining both. You're creating a purpose-driven plan. You have to have a plan to move forward so that you're not taking unnecessary risks or unnecessary money that comes involved in that. I think it's really important to maintain an experimental attitude, and you want to take advantage of the unexpected. Right now, during the pandemic, during everything that's going on in our world, there are so many opportunities. And if you put that entrepreneurial mindset on and that purposeful, you are going to find where those opportunities are. And they're everywhere because we've been seeing them. And so you've got to kind of break through, think beyond. You've got to think differently. And you've got to do it before somebody else does, because I guarantee you somebody else is going to think about it first. You know, I mean, how many just wearing masks when we all have to wear masks? How much money did people make on masks? And who were the first ones to get out there before everybody else started to manufacture them? So you have to be the first one out the door and be at the right time in the right place to do that. Also having that vision of contribution. Contribution is really important. You want to contribute, know your big why. Why am I doing what I'm doing every day? And no matter what you're doing, no matter what job you have right now, whether you're an owner, whether you're an employee, whether you're thinking of starting a business, whether you're doing it on the side, there's that contribution that you have to ask yourself every day on what people need and how you can help them. Having that proactive, that positive attitude is crucially important, especially in the times we live in right now. We have seen devastation happen around us. And
Excuse me, Julianna.
Yes.
Could you bring the microphone a bit closer to you?
Okay, yes, I have it a little bit. Are you okay there?
That's much better.
Okay, thank you. And so I was just talking about everything that's going on in the world right now. People are reactive. We all have a choice on how to react, and we can react in a really positive way. And when we all do that part, it contributes to a better way in our world, in a bigger world, in our business world, in our personal lives. And so I just ask to be proactive, not reactive. Prioritize. Ryan mentioned make your moments count. That's crucially important. And being optimistic. Ask yourself, are you in the right seat? I think every single one of you have a strength. You have something to offer. And it's really important to sometimes, you may just be in the wrong seat. I don't know if anyone of you have ever read Good to Great by Jim Collins. If not, I highly recommend that, because sometimes you're just in the wrong seat. And part of leaders need to find what that strength is, what that passion is that drives someone else. And that's the seat that they need to be in, because we don't all know everything, but together we're very strong. And I'm really proud to be part of the SBDC, because I really feel that that's who we are. We all have our different expertise, but we're all really strong in our expertise, in our different things that we do. In my personal view, I have, through my life, I've had several different passions, and I think my background kind of shows that. This is my third career. I started as a broadcaster for 25 years in the marketing broadcast world, in front of the camera, behind the camera. Then my husband and I opened our own business prior to moving back to New Mexico. We were doing training and national conferences. And then what's really funny, and then I started with the SBDC, but then I go way back to college, and I think about when I had 4 jobs because I was paying for my way through college. And I worked for the TV station as an anchor and reporter. I taught fitness and aerobic classes. I videotaped for the football and basketball teams. These were all my jobs. I was also the graphic designer to design brochures and stuff for NMSU, and I had never done that before. That was my main job. What I was thinking about when Ryan and I started to do this, I've actually come full circle. What I started in college, and I'm seeing Ryan almost do the same thing already. I started doing that, but I'm still doing that with my clients, with our SBDCs. I'm still trying to help them with everything that we've talked about. So just have the courage to move forward and to have that purposeful mindset to move forward. Okay, so Ryan, we are going to start with our 7 lifestyle transformations, and that we can start today to apply for a better energized you. So can you go ahead and give us your 3?
Absolutely, Joel. So everyone, these 3 lifestyle transformations for me have been really reflective of, I would say, the last 1.5 years for me. So to give context to where a lot of this thought came from, I went ahead and graduated from college. I graduated from the University of Denver in 2020. And so it was June of 2020. And I didn't start work. I took a full year off because I wanted to really focus in on my well-being. And I've been go since I was in 7th grade. And I really wanted a moment just to rest and kind of, in a sense, reconnect with who I was. And there were certain challenges I gave myself to do that. And so the first ones of those were, and this is section 1, is pick up a hobby on your free time. I love music. Everything, my parents, I remember even last night driving from Albuquerque back home, we were listening to the Sugar Shack and Chewy Chewy and Let's Dance by Chris Montes. Like, I grew up with a plethora of music, which I'm very grateful for to this day. And so with picking up that hobby, music is a passion of mine. And I did a lot of work previously with the music industry and promoting independent artists in college and working behind the scenes for live concerts. But I don't really necessarily know how to play instruments, or I didn't, I should say. And so one of my friends gave me a keyboard and I taught myself how to play piano. That was one of the first hobbies that I picked up in this challenge that I took upon myself because, again, I wanted to challenge my mindset. I wanted to learn a new skill. Again, too, the second thing is read for fun. Especially in college, a lot of times you really don't read for fun in college because you're really focused in on, I got to get this essay down, so I have to just consume so much material that when it comes time to read for fun, it's a little bit like, well, I'll push it off. I'll go be social. I'll do something else. And so now I'm currently reading, I don't know if you can see right here, but it's called The Catalyst, and it's how to change anyone's mind. And so this book is really focusing in on whether it be corporate, whether it be relationships, whether it be small business, again, healthcare, all environments, it applies. And I challenge myself to read 10 pages a day because, again, I want to learn something new. And of course, I'm learning something new every day with the work that I do, but this is a new approach to how I'm adding value to myself. Another one that I have taken on, which is still a part of me to this day, which has been a huge component of my mental health, is focusing in on fitness. I go to the gym. I went to the gym yesterday at 5:30 in the morning. I make this habit for myself because ultimately I want to show up for myself. If I can show up for myself, I can ultimately show up for my clients, show up for my teams, and show up for the people that I surround myself with. Again, it starts with you. I also brought in an idea of meditation and yoga. Again, the world around us was not still, it was shaking. And I'm like, what do I do? There's so much uncertainty. And by taking those moments to reflect and be in stillness, I was able to ride that wave, and I'm still able to ride that wave. And so with that, and I kind of mentioned this, and it goes into my topic number 2 is tracking those goals. So when I show up for myself in the morning and go to the gym, I'm tracking how much weight I can do. I'm tracking how much cardio I can do. You know, I'm not high school Ryan where I could run and run and run. You know, there comes a point when I'm like, okay, I need my water. I need to take a break. You know, I'm like, I'd go just walk around and, you know, but tracking myself and seeing that progress. Whether it even comes to, you know, who have I been in contact with today? I think a big issue that not just myself face, but a lot of us is we're so busy that sometimes we forget to keep in contact with people. And sometimes, you know, we're working 40, 45 hours, maybe more, maybe less, that when it comes time to shut off, it's like, well, I can't be social anymore. I'm tired. I just need to rest. I just need my brain to be, you know? And so by tracking, okay, I want to talk to 2 people who I haven't caught up with, sending gratitude texts or gratitude calls and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I know that I haven't spoken to you in a while, but I think about you. You're in my thoughts. And I just want you to know that though I may not be conversating with you on a daily, I think about you. And that also goes into section number 3, is really focusing in on this quality over quantity aspect. Especially in college, you know, high school, being extroverted, I would always surround myself around so many people, but there were many people that I didn't feel were filling my cup, if that makes sense to all of you. You know, you're giving so much energy to people and so much of your time and efforts, but sometimes you don't get it back. And my dad always said, you can count your best friends or the close people in your life on your hand. And now that I've matured and gone into the professional world, I can see that. I can see that very clearly. And I've really set this intention on surrounding myself around people that uplift me, that energize me, inspire me, and ultimately want the best for me. But not just viewing it like that, it's also doing the same for the people that you surround yourself with. For me, that has allowed me to feel energized and feel inspired and ultimately feel happy. You know, there's so much going on around the world where sometimes you just can't show up for yourself and you don't feel happy, and that's okay. We're human. But when you surround yourself around people that want the best for you, you can come to them and say, hey, Joel, I'm not feeling myself today. Like, can you just give me some words of encouragement, words of inspiration? And there's this shift in your mindset where you're like, okay. Adding more context to this, Joel, before we go into slide 4, is one thing that Julie and I do every Monday. We have a Zoom slot called Motivational Monday, and we're discussing the messages that we want to convey in presentations like this. But also we're encouraging each other and asking each other questions and viewing life in this way of how can we help people? How can we share messages of positivity? How can we benefit people and add an impact in their lives? And so by having that reoccurring meeting, it's not, oh, this is an hour that we have on the clock. This is an hour that we have to think about life differently. And ultimately, in this moment of virtual living, we still want to connect. We still want to inspire, and we still want to impact. So those are the first 3. Jewel, can you start with number 4?
I sure will, Ryan. And I wanted to thank you for bringing that up because that is so true. We really motivate ourselves, and you can see that we're generations apart, and it works. Ryan has really been my firelighter. He just ignites me when I need things. And I've also seen, Ryan, with everything that you've done here, on how you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping helping others by what you're sharing. So thank you so much for sharing that with you. I will be sharing 4 of mine as well. So we're going to start with the heart. Courage to unlock your possibilities. For me, my biggest transformations also started from home, and you're going to see that both Ryan and I were raised in the same area. He was raised in Chimayo, I was raised in Espanola. I personally feel Northern New Mexico has the best good-hearted people in the world, and I've been all over, and I still say that the people from our area really have started from the heart, and our parents aren't the only ones that have started that at home. It's been everyone. And in order for people to be happy at the workplace, no matter what you're doing, I've learned that you have to be happy with your faith and your family. Your pets all come first. I'm a pet lover. I have pets, and believe it or not, they help and they heal as well. When I was working for Channel 7, I had first heard of Stephen Covey, and he came in and he did a workshop. And here you're working for an environment where you're really fast paced, you're competitive, you're walking in. I really felt like I was walking into a race every day, and I really didn't know when the end was, but I know the deadline was 3 o'clock, and I had no idea what was in store for me, but I had to get to that deadline at 3 o'clock no matter what. So very fast paced, very kind of lifestyle. Stephen Covey came in. If you've ever seen him, he isn't here with us, but the 7 Habits, you've heard about that. He came in and he told everyone that your faith, your family, and work. Those are the 3 things that are important, and that's how it should actually the most important. Your faith is first, your family, and your work. If you have that, then you have that whole fulfilling purpose in your life, and you have to go back to that. Like Ryan said, sometimes it gets really scattered, and you have to just stop, and you have to re-energize yourself. Also, Ryan mentioned a lot of fitness and food, and I think we both the other night, we were really tired, and we both motivated ourselves. He went to the gym, and I went to my fitness center at my house, and we worked out, and we were all excited, and we were wide awake really late. So every time you exercise, that's when your mind just opens up, when you're not even thinking about anything. And then when you combine that with foods that heal, every time you're going to open your mouth, ask yourself, is this going to hurt me, or is it going to help me? And then you'll know what to do. And when you start to really think about establishing that mindset, you start to feel better about yourself, because you have to take care of you before you take care of everyone else. If you're not taking care of yourself, how are you going to share your contribution with everyone? Going back to my parents also, I have 4 brothers and sisters. We were young. We were just in I think elementary or junior high school. And they sat us down and they told us, what's most important to us in your life when you start to learn and get involved is for you to have a kind heart, for you to basically practice the 6 pillars of character. And we all know trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, citizenship. As long as we practice those, and it doesn't matter if you're going to be the best ditcher and you're going to be digging a ditch for a living, or if you're going to be owning a business or a CEO, in our minds, they told us, we will be proud of you if you have a good heart. That's what we are most proud of. And I really feel that that was my foundation, and that was really important because they taught me to be a giver and a forgiver. We come from a really large family, also a musical family. We get together a lot. There's a lot of things going on, but that bond is there, and you synergize, and that really helps you with everything that you do in life. Character counts, and character is really important, and I just feel that that was the foundation. Lifting others higher. I remember when Ryan came to me in 8th grade, I just saw this passion that he had. It was just amazing for his age. And that passion has just continued to grow and grow. And I just saw this potential, this belief that he can do anything. I still believe he can probably do anything that he wants to do. And he's on that path. And several of my SBDC colleagues have helped me with that. And so I want to leave before I go on to my next slide. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. And there's sometimes that you may not only have one gift, you have many gifts. And so you just need to find those gifts. And it's okay to have many gifts. The other two that I want to talk about is choices matter. I was also taught that, I always thought I grew up on a dirt road. I made these choices to do this or that, but every choice had either a reward or consequence, and learned that very easily, so that when I moved on in life, choices mattered. Not only choices matter, but words matter, actions matter. Everything you do on a day-to-day basis, whatever you say, however you act, that's the person that you are. And so you have to really look back and say, we all are human. There's sometimes we make mistakes, or we say things we weren't supposed to and it didn't come out the right way. You just go back and just, regroup, apologize, explain, and then you move on. That's how relationships happen. And that's what's really important in also living your passion, is to build those relationships, those trusting relationships, and surround those people with that. We create our own future by making our choices and our habits, one step at a time. I became a Stephen Covey trainer through the SBDC. I'm a certified Covey trainer in the 7 habits. And I've really learned that the 7 habits are really crucially important on a day-to-day, to start with the end in mind. I look at that in different ways. When we're putting a business plan together for a business, you start with, well, what's that vision? Any company that you work with, you have, what's that mission? What's that vision? But I also look at, start with the end in mind as, what if I'm at the end of my life? Is this going to be important? So I always go back to that space, and it always just seems to work for me to go ahead and try new things or do things. And it all just takes a habit. And I think during the pandemic, we all saw habits change. Everyone's habits changed. And so now, if you want to change them back, it's a whole different mindset. So it takes discipline and practice and patience. And also that 8th habit. Look for the 8th habit, that synergy, that voice. Who are you? What's that voice inside of you? What's that passion? And that's that great habit that you're going to have. Ryan, do you have anything to add to this? Because I know you're thinking about something. I can feel you.
I really believe it's just that focus on synergy and empowering yourself in many ways. Because the choices matter, and viewing it kind of goes down to viewing life with that intention. And how do I want to make an impact? And what am I doing in this off season of my life right now in this moment to prepare for what's ahead for me? One of my good friends from college, I'll say a quick little story, Joel, is he'll call me every now and then. He lives in Chicago right now. We were roommates in college. And he sends messages like, Ryan, how do you motivate yourself? Ryan, how do you encourage yourself when you feel like the whole world doesn't believe in you? And for one, I'm grateful that I get asked those questions. But what it comes down to is really that belief in yourself, belief in your vision, and going down and writing on paper to, I am worthy, I am powerful. And when in those moments when you're on your high of highs where life is great, show that gratitude for that moment and say, thank you for this moment. Thank you that, I'm breathing right now, that I'm living, and that I'm happy, and track that down. So that when you're in moments where you're in despair or in that uncertainty phase, you can reflect back to that moment and recharge in that way. That's what I would say.
And it's really important to that synergy. I mean, we find that synergy with everyone that we're dealing with, and building certain habits as we move along the way. So thank you for that inspiration. So I'm going to read this. Choices lead to habits. Habits become talents. Talents are labeled gifts. You're not born this way, you get this way. So any time that we need to challenge ourselves if we don't challenge ourselves, you don't feel good at the end of the day. I remember my husband and I, we love to do bicycle riding, mountain biking, and road biking. And when I started road biking, and it was in Denver, and you know the traffic there on how fast it moves, it was really scary to be on the road with all the vehicles and yourself. But off-road, it was just practicing, joining some of the different races, and then you get better and better and better. So you've got to challenge yourself with that to develop those habits, and you've got to develop that synergy along the way for people to help you with it. And so now in this next slide, we're both, Ryan and I, we're going to share with you some people living your passion. We've been talking about all this passion, people are living it. Well, here are some ones that are happening right now. Right now, my husband and I, we have a Jeep, so we do bike riding, we go off trail, we do things. He's always watching Trail Recon, and it's on YouTube. And it's more for our age. So you're going to see two different age generations here that are going to talk about what's going on. But go YouTube Trail Recon. And mainly, I thought it was targeted mainly for males around our age that want to go camping, want to find different sites throughout different states. And they're finding these really great things. And they just take you along on their camping trip. But his wife is also, in the meantime, cooking and giving you all these really great recipes and telling you what to make when you're out there. So they quit their day jobs. I think he was a retired military Navy, and then she was a nurse. And they have both quit because they started to YouTube, and they basically started to share their story. And they are making a living now doing what they love best. Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about Alyssa?
Absolutely. So I am a big fan of TikTok. I didn't have TikTok for a while. It was always, our friend group was always like, don't get on TikTok, don't get on TikTok. Finally, over the pandemic, I decided to get it. And they have a thing called your For You page. And so it's curated content that's, you know, they track your information. And so they have like engagements that are based on topics that you might enjoy and topics of interest. And so I stumbled upon this user right here, Alyssa Sung. She recently graduated from college. I have no affiliation with her. However, she's a concert photographer, huge concert lover like myself. And she continually tells her story of how she would at first go for free to concerts. She'd send emails to the management of smaller shows, get in contact with artist management for larger shows, and was able to film and record certain shows. And so in her TikTok content, a lot of that is engaging with artists and engaging with fans. She'll share her story of how this is what her passion is. And she also talks about some of the struggles that are faced with that passion. Over time, and that's a great thing about the internet, is you're able to see the progression of from one idea to how it becomes a business. At this moment now, she's getting paid for her passion. She's getting paid to go to shows, and she's being invited by artists because of the quality of her work, which is showcased for free on this social media platform. And so this is just another idea of how, especially in my generation, TikTok is a huge proponent for success when it comes to promoting clothing, promoting services, and promoting these unique ideas and thoughts, especially when it comes to the music industry as a whole right now. Back in the day, it was really focused in on record sales and CD sales. And now how they determine value in songs is through TikTok, which, you know, can have its take on how people see value in that. However, this platform is free. And so even with small businesses, and those of you who have your small businesses or working on ways to promote and curate content for your business, for your product or service, it's encouraging to get on YouTube, to get on TikTok, to get on these social platforms. And some may say, oh, I have no idea what these are. I encourage you to learn what these platforms can do, because they can add benefit to your service and product. Look at Alyssa right here having 4,000 viewers. Those are 4,000 people who can talk to another 4,000 people who can talk to another 2,000 people. So your product or service is being showcased. And how did it start? By living what she loved, by living that passion of hers and monetizing on that.
I know, Ryan, you mentioned that there are so many during the pandemic. I just helped start so many different businesses. And I think really what you're seeing now, from what I've seen and what you've mentioned, this is key. People are listening to other people. It's authentic. When I train people on how to do a video, how to do a video production, during the pandemic, we were in a lockdown, so I couldn't go take my camera and my everything and do it, help them and do it for them. We had to actually do it via you have a phone. Everything can be done on your phone. And guess what? From when I started in production and video production to where we are now, it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it's better if it's not, because then people really believe you. Social media, YouTube, TikTok, and everything that's on there that you see, it's real people talking to other real people that are interested. So when you have a passion, some of the key takeaways here that Ryan and I have both mentioned, you have a target market. So is my target market going to be on TikTok? Probably not. But Ryan's is going to be on TikTok. Mine's probably going to be more on YouTube. And so when you think about targeting the market, Ryan, do you remember the 3 R's from way back when I had you do one of our international trainings, and I kind of threw Ryan in? I think he was in probably a sophomore in high school. And we always talked about what is those 3 R's and 3 key messages in learning on marketing. We're talking about target marketing. We're talking about what media. We're talking about what are we talking about, And
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Julie, even if I can jump in here, I think even me selecting the path I wanted to go down in college and what degree I wanted was because of the mentorship and understanding, okay, got the right market, you got the right message, and you got the right media. And for me, even when I was sitting in classes, I remember when my parents and my Aunt Shirley and Uncle Mike, when we went to Denver to visit the University of Denver, they allowed me to sit in a classroom. And it was a senior level class. And I believe I was a junior in college, in high school at the time. And so I'm sitting in the class, just taking everything in, and they ask a question and I like raise my hand and I'm like, oh, is this the answer? And again, I guess that kind of speaks on taking the initiative, and also the excitement, but it came back to that. And yeah, it is those 3 R's that you use day to day.
And that's perfect. And he remembered them. And I knew he was, because we always go back to that, because I think it's really important to just remember you have a target market. So if you have a passion, you have a target market. If you're at home or if you're at work and you find that you can't find a solution to something, to a problem that you have, guess what? That's an opening for a business. That's an opening for something. And you may be the one to discover it. But when you think narrow and not think that you have something for everyone, it's really targeting that market and really having that perseverance, having that you need to have that motivation to move forward. And so I just challenge you to think about your passion, think about what Ryan and I are talking about today. It's something that doesn't have to be perfect when you're putting it out there. Way back when you were buying advertising, everything was perfect. It was a commercial. People don't believe those anymore. That's why social media has risen to the level that it has. People are getting their advice from other people that have used a product, or they're moving forward, or if you even get on, they're almost asking everyone, do you know anybody that does this? Well, somebody may, and you may be answering that question. So before we get on, Ryan, we're going to wrap up our 7 ways that to get out of our path of living a passion. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next. So we sort of have a little wrap up. So both Ryan and I have been talking about these 7. These are the 7 that we really feel that have worked for both of us. And do work that matters, number 1. Number 2, make well-being a priority. Be curious. Get out of your comfort zone. Ask yourself, what if? Embrace an entrepreneur mindset. Be optimistic and be realistic also. The right thought plus the right people in the right environment at the right time for the right reason gets the right result. And so when you're living your passion, I mentioned before how back when I was in college, I ended up with 3 degrees, but they were 3 degrees that kind of meshed into each other: advertising, broadcast journalism, TV production, kind of in the same field, but it was in the front of the camera, behind the camera, kind of in that ways. It's really worked for me. So sometimes you don't need to go through maybe the curriculum that's set out for you. You need to find your own path, and you need to create your own, whatever you want to do, you need to create that for yourself. I've also seen Ryan do this. I've seen when he has come to start to do this, and he's at a younger age, he has already accomplished more things in this time. And it's mainly because of the attitude and the positive mindset and that initiative that he has. And he's not afraid to jump in the water and just start swimming if he has to. He will get out of that comfort zone and start to do this. And I have gotten out of mine. There are a lot of times I'm always preaching. What is that? Have your 60-second biz buzz ready, because you never know where there's going to be a camera. When you have the opportunity with our businesses, TV station might interview somebody, you've got to be ready for that 60-second biz buzz all the time. In this case, that's exactly what happened that I'm showing you here. And so, Ryan, I'm going to flip it over to you so that you can tell us and wrap up the 7 lifestyle transformations you can start to apply for a better energized you.
Thank you, Joel. Well, let's go through them real quick. And again, we discussed picking up a hobby on your free time, tracking those goals, focusing on the quality over the quantity of your relationships, starting with the heart, understanding that character counts, changing your way of thinking, and building one habit at a time. And I have this quote down here, but before I briefly mention the quote, I do want to recognize the slide previously showed Julie behind the camera. This photo is of me right here in, I believe this was my senior year of high school. That's me behind the camera doing a commercial for the New Mexico Activities Association. So if there's something that has meaning with this story, it's the importance of learning from one another. And I have this quote down here that I took away from Deloitte University when I went to, we had this campus learning how to be in, learning what consulting was and learning how to make an impact in client work. But my mentor in the GPS world and in government public services at Deloitte, who's my coach as well, said something so profound to me. And I believe I've heard this, and we've all heard this in many ways. But in this moment, I was like, this changed my life. And it's, don't just do it for you, do it for your community. And there is just so much power in that statement right there. I remember my senior year of high school as well, my Miss Sandra Roney, my econ professor, she said, Ryan, you're not going to do this for yourself. You're doing this for your posterity. Similar meaning. And it's like, I want to learn. I want to understand, because I want to clear a path for those behind me. Jewel made that path for me. And though her path may have gone one way and mine has gone the other, there's that level of understanding, and there's that level of inspiration. And when it comes to those lifestyle transformations, it's having those points of reflection and points in those moments in life where you're like, I want to do something similar to that. I want to follow this path. And as you're following that, you find those passions for yourself and you navigate the path yourself. Because not one person's path is the same as someone else's, but you can gain inspiration and energy and synergy from one another. And so by having 7 points of passion and 7 points of lifestyle transformations, those give you an idea. And hopefully from the stories that Julie has shared and the stories that I've shared have encouraged you and inspired you to go on this path and this journey for yourself, to not only inspire yourself, but inspire those behind you. That's the best piece of advice that you can have for anybody, for younger students, for college students, for young professionals, for professionals who are about to retire, for retirees. Everyone has this passion and this drive and this path. And continuation is so important now more than ever.
Thank you, Ryan. And you just bring up so many great points with this. And exactly what Ryan said, you've seen both of us behind the camera. It's sharing what you've learned, sharing everything that you did, shared with Ryan. And so in a lot of ways, he was getting a really crash course in TV broadcasting because he was in front of the camera, he was behind the camera. We teamed him up with editing. So he kind of learned both. When Ryan was starting out, when anyone's starting out, and it doesn't matter what age you're at, again, no matter where you at in life right now, if you try different things and learn from one another, be each other's mentor, that is the best learning experience, is to just get in there and start and do, and have the courage to just get in there and do it. And Ryan, with he taught, he says, do it for your community. I'd like to mention, Ryan is always thinking about others, no matter what. And I'm going to talk a little bit more because I know we have a slide on that I'll bring that up. But he's always thinking about the community. He's always thinking, what's better for someone else? How can I make somebody's life better so that they don't have to maybe take a rocky path? They can right away get on this path and maybe alleviate some of that. And so now, Ryan, when we get into this next slide, I want to show you a little progression here. Don't you just love this picture here? The first one with his hair just kind of wild. And so this is Ryan's little timeline, and I'm going to have him talk about this. So when we were going through our mentorship, I thought it was really important for him to have a voice. And I learned Ryan had a voice immediately, very young. He's got a gift on how passionate he is and real from the heart he is, and authentic, and how he shares that. So Ryan, can you talk about each one of these timelines and what you remember from these?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing to call out is in every photo, I think my hairstyle has always grown with me, the first thing. But what I want to mention with these photos, so the first photo with me on the far left, that was my 8th grade year. And we held an assembly prior to our students going into high school. And at that point, the message was focused on empowering and encouraging our students to stay in school. And the point there is, at that point, the school had was known for having one of the lowest graduation rates. And so during 8th grade, I had this focus on, I want to uplift others. I want to inspire others. I want them to see the value in themselves. But most importantly, I want to be a voice for the voiceless. And so that started the journey. Then we go into the second photo, and we're talking about youth entrepreneurship and youth mentorship. And that's at the Roundhouse in the Rotunda at the state capitol in New Mexico. Sharing my ideas and what I have learned from the SBDC at that point. The third photo is a conversation we had at La Fonda, again, mentioning the importance of youth entrepreneurship and youth empowerment to our state legislators, representatives, senators, our lieutenant governor, getting that message out there. This next photo is very important to me, and it's very impactful to my story. And I think it commemorates those few years. So as you remember at the first photo, I'm trying to encourage and inspire my class. Senior year, I was still the class president. So in that first photo, I'm the student body president. And in this last photo, I'm the senior class president in 2016. And one of the most memorable moments I have is the headline in our local newspaper is EVHS celebrates students. And at that point, we had one of the highest graduation rates. And I am just empowered and proud of not myself, but my classmates for believing in themselves. And I hope that I was a part of that story for them. And I hope that I inspired them and encouraged them. Another aspect right there is in that photo for graduation, I was speaking and I invited 13 students from elementary schools all around the Espanola Valley High School. And we had a application asking, what does success mean to you? How do you want to be a light in your life? And so in each of the rows for graduation, we had our youth, our future sitting there. And in that photo, I'm giving a message to them, again, of empowerment and inspiring them to believe in themselves and to act on themselves. When I left to college, I was the only one from my class to go to my school. You know, I was in this battle where I wanted to go with my friends, but I knew that there was this higher purpose and that I was supposed to be where I was. And so again, I took that journey with the support and the drive and the initiative and this view of, this is going to open up so much for me and my personal and professional growth. And that's my photo graduating from college. And then the bottom photo was me today. And the funniest thing is Julie mentioned this briefly, but we talk about this idea of, you know, she focused in on how everything's gone full circle. Well, for me, the work that I do at my job, which I love, is change management. And so that is empowering in this case, it's the state of Michigan, to apply new foundations of learning and new technologies to enhance their overall day-to-day work to, again, support the state of Michigan. And in this case, the Department of Health Human Services. So that brings that back full circle, because when I started with the SBDC, we're having conversations about state, local, higher ed. When I'd go to the Rotunda and speak on SBDC Day. And so I was involved in that environment, and that inspired me. And now I'm in this position where I can use my voice again to empower these other states, which I hope to eventually do some work for the state of New Mexico and bring back what I have learned to support them in that regard, with whether it be healthcare, higher ed education, but joining those projects to support in this new role that I have.
Okay, Ryan, also, we put some pictures up here, and I want you to actually talk about talk about this photo and everything that we put on here, because, and I also want you to, how did the SBDC mentorship through the years impact all your choices, specifically just certain choices in that, and then talk about what this means to you.
Absolutely. So this quote up at the top is something that has been a large proponent of how I view life. And I remember calling Jewel one day and I was like, Julie, this is it. I had this, it was a conversation. I remember I was in South Fork, Colorado with my Aunt Shirley and Uncle Mike, and we're, you know, just having a beverage and just talking about life and talking about, you know, these moments in my life. And we just, the same theme kept coming up. You learn it from each other. Everything that happens in life, you learn from one another. And I went to bed and I woke up the next day and I'm like, learn it from each other. That's life. And these photos are just a point of that. So you'll see me behind the camera. You'll see me interviewing. You will see me working with youth. And you'll see me interacting with officials, you know, business owners, other people within the SBDC. But there's also photos in here. I mean, of course, it starts, you know, with my parents and them having the belief in me early on in life. But then there's so many other mentors that I have had through life that have inspired me to just keep going on. And that's the most important thing as well, is that's why mentorship is so important, because again, you have your list of those people who believe in you. Julie believed in me. There's a photo right here where I'm wearing the red shirt, and that's Claudia Hernandez Ponce, who was the admissions, she worked in admissions and she represented the state of New Mexico. She knew me by name because I took the initiative. I'm like, I want to go to this university. And of every university I visited, she looked at my bio, she looked at my resume. So when we went to go visit, she took that time and that energy to get to know me and have me not be a number, which ultimately was a big point in that story. Then we have photos here where I'm in the suit with the tie, and that's with the leadership from the Pioneer Leadership Program. They were a huge proponent of my success as well. Next to that, there's a photo with Miss Barbee Gutierrez and Miss Leslie Kilmer, who were the superintendent and principal at the time, who also believed, while I was doing all this SBDC work in high school, they believed in this message and this mission that I was on. And so they constantly said, absolutely, take some time, go do that. You're going to have an impact. And it brings everything back full circle to where I am today. And this photo on the far left is me with a mentor from Deloitte who took the time to train me in how to do case interviews and critically think in a new environment to, end up to where I'm at today. The whole story with all these photos, and I know there's more coming in, but it's that belief. And it's not just believing in yourself, but having people who believe in you. Because when you feel that support, you want to support yourself even more and just continue on your story.
Thank you, Ryan. And now I'm going to be talking a little bit more still about your story. But Ryan was talking a little bit about our mantras. And this is my mantra here, is helping people live their passion, create a business legacy, and unleash their creative spirit. And I really feel it's important to have your personal mantra. And so when Ryan was sharing his with yours, I said, you have to have that. What do you get up for every morning? What are you all about? What ignites you? That's what that's all about. Here, you're going to see a little bit about where we're sharing this because this is something all of you can do at any point of your life. Is like Ryan mentioned, there's different mentors through your whole life. They start at home. They start with your parents. They start at school. Then it goes on into the workplace, and then you're interacting with certain people. And going to the legislature, this is our SBDC program. So I had my whole team of experts in the SBDC help Ryan mentor as well. I took him along with us, and we went in and we were interviewing and talking to our legislators. Why our governor? Why our lieutenant governor? Our state legislators? We take our small businesses every year and highlight how important small business is in our community. We're advocates of small businesses. Ryan became that advocate as well. And so talking to our legislators, our policymakers, these are our policymakers. What I found Ryan doing was not only talking about entrepreneurship, and I was looking for that picture earlier that we had, he always brought in a younger person that had either been maybe bullied, didn't have that much confidence, and he always brought someone along. So here I was mentoring Ryan during this time, and Ryan was mentoring someone a lot smaller that was, I think he was in seventh grade. I can't remember because he was really young. But we were mentoring and showing all this path. And I want to thank my SBDC, our whole legislative staff, because they have been wonderful with Ryan. Everyone has been really impressed. I want to tell you a little story here with Lieutenant Governor John Sanchez at the time, and Dr. Rick Bailey, and our state director, Russell Ryrick, is in this photo in the middle. And he actually created a special legislative ceremony for Ryan. And we had it was throughout the legislators on the House floor and on the Senate floor. Ryan was recognized on both levels for his inspiration, for everything he brought. Everyone got to know him. He actually told him that he knew that someday he would take his seat as lieutenant governor or governor someday if he chose to be, because he felt that he was on that path where he can really make impact. Senator Heinrich, we have several videos on Senator Heinrich on when he met Ryan. We had conversations about how important it was that Ryan was here sharing. People listened when you take other people, especially when you take younger people. I sometimes feel like I was mentoring Ryan, but Ryan was mentoring me right back. Because sometimes, you have to go back and have that mindset of when you were young, because sometimes when you go on your path, depending on who you're with, some of it may get cluttered, but it goes back to that space of excitement and you're living and what am I going to do? I can do this, this, and that. And Ryan took me back to those places of this is what I can do as well. And I think with the legislators, after talking to our governor, he was dancing with our governor, everyone just really respected Ryan and wanted to hear his point of view because he had a lot to say. And what he had to say, the words mattered, because what he was talking about was how are they going to change policy and legislation So it can impact our young people, it can impact our future, it can impact our businesses. What are you doing? Ryan at a young age were asking the really tough questions, and they listened and they heard. He also was at Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham is here, and our late Representative Nick Salazar, and New Mexico State Senator Pete Campos, who's a really big advocate of our small business development centers, and also with Ryan. He always wanted to call. And right now, I know several of them wanted to be on this because I got calls, Ryan, when this went out, it went out to our legislators. And it was amazing to me on everyone that remembers you, because I got phone calls talking about your story. They still want to know what you're doing and what's going on. And so this is kind of Ryan's path on how together you can make things happen and things start to change and to make things happen. I love this title that I came up with, but it's like, let them fly with you for a while and watch them pass you by. Pass you by, that's an error there, sorry. Ryan, I just really feel that that's Ryan. You have them fly a while with you. He was with us everywhere. What you're seeing here now, we were speaking at the national conference of the University Economic Development Association. And this conference, I had my clients with me. You have Purple Adobe Lavender Farm, Avano from Avano Construction, Norma at the Feasting Place, and also Giovanna Papanetti, a Taos artist and author. And you have Ryan Baca. And then we also had Dennis Chavez, who was filming everything because he's a videographer. So we had all these small businesses and a panel that I featured at our national conference. And people were so excited to hear from each one because everyone on this panel had passion. Ryan, at his young age, just had, like I said, a lot to say. Words matter. Your ideas matter. Things that it just forms on who you are. And so speaking, being able to speak and have that voice was really important. Down here, to your right here, he was actually thrown in where we were talking about a marketing class, and I had him actually start to do a training with me. The challenge here was that we had Algeria, Africa, people from business owners, and we also had translators at the same time going. Ryan did wonderful. I kind of just got him in there. We started to talk about things they were translating. He learned how to do that really quickly at the radio station. So we've been doing several speaking engagements, which I think has really helped Ryan. And Ryan, I'll let you speak to this before we get to the next slide. So any thoughts here on this slide?
I don't think there's any thoughts for me particularly on this one. I think it was just great to have the experience and network with people from all over the world and truly understand how, especially when I was able to study abroad. I studied abroad for 4 months in Europe, and I studied in Spain, and we took a class truly understanding the importance of how cultures are very different, yet very similar. And one of the stories when we had the international training was Mel, Julie's dad, came in to sing a song, and everyone was present. And it truly resonated that, music is the international language that connects us all. And when you think of how you want your business to incorporate different cultures and unite people, it's really looking through that lens is what are some commonalities that people from all around the world share? What ignites us? What empowers us? What lightens up day? Because if you can get through the heart, then you've already done half of the job of the business plan. By coming and bringing your authentic self and your authentic product and your authentic service, you can ignite people and initiate that change. I think that's what I would say, Joel.
That's perfect, Ryan. I should have added several pictures of my dad, and because that opened it immediately. I think Ryan and I saw when my dad started to play, and he was singing Spanish songs, and they were being interpreted. It didn't matter. It just, that connection just happened. We just have to find that connection, and music really did that for us. So now we're going to come down to our next slide where we're wrapping up, and hopefully we're going to have a little bit of a few questions afterwards for this. this is the slide that I'm just going to leave you with. Be the change. This is imagine the possibilities. And I put the voice of many things when Ryan and I were back when he was in 8th grade and he was starting his business. And we started to think, it just started to be the voice of many things. And that's exactly what he's gone on to do. So in order to change the world, you just can start with you one step at a time. Start with you in everything that we talked about and what's important, what matters most to you, but keeping your well-being and your health, your family, your faith, everything in mind at that heart. And then surrounding yourself with those igniters, those fire lighters that are going to be around you to inspire you, because each one of you has a strength. You just need to find it. And I hope we helped you find that today. Ryan, are we going to open it up for questions? Do you have anything to add before we open it up for questions?
Yeah, I would say real quick, my last piece of inspiration that I want to leave you all with, and first off, thank you all for being here, is something that I do to this day. So when I got really into fitness, I saw through social media that there was someone who inspired me, and he had this mantra that said, "Did you win the morning?" And it kind of goes back to my thought of, did you show up for yourself? And so what I do on my Instagram is every time that I go to the gym, I record a video of myself, because me going to the gym is a progression of my own growth. But at that point, I'm putting on my story, did you win the morning? And I say yes or no. But instead of yes or no, I say, did you make you a priority? And then the question would be, I'm working on it right now, or imagine the possibilities, or something like that to motivate. The other thing that I do, which I encourage all of you to do, is set your word for the day and create the intention of, how do I want to make the impact? And I ask my friends that all the time. And I thought, well, Ryan, I was driving over here and I'm like, why don't I ask myself that? And I would say my word for the day is gratitude. I don't think since graduating, I've had time to reflect on my past self and how all of these moments have made me who I am today. I'm inspired and I'm encouraged by my own story and by who I've had along on my journey, who's remained, who's stayed, who's believed in me from the beginning. And also a thank you for those who didn't, because I think there's moments in life where you got to acknowledge both of those, the successes, the failures. And I hope that this conversation that we had today has inspired you to make yourself a priority and make your dreams and your visions and these goals that you have a priority, because it doesn't matter what stage we're at in life. The moment is now. Your moment is now. And I'm inspired and just so happy to be here to share my story and share how this mentorship has truly impacted my life in the best way possible.
Thank you, Ryan. And before we close, Chris, are there any important questions out there that we can answer? Well, Chris is getting on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you hear me?
Yes. Oh, no, we didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
The first question is, what was the name of your book? The book that you mentioned referring to, Are You in the Right Seat?
It was The Good to Great, and it's by Jim Collins.
Let's see, The Good to Great. By who?
Jim Collins is the author.
Okay, I typed it in the Q&A. Fran says, great job, Julianna and Ryan. She feels inspired. So thank you for that, Fran. Dustin says, what is the biggest mistake you've made and what did you learn from it?
Who's he asking? Well, Ryan, do you want to take that, or do you want?
Well, yeah, Joel start off, and then I can share mine as well.
What was the biggest mistake and how did I learn from it? I think that biggest mistake might have been probably back in, it would maybe have been way back in high school, I would have said, or junior high school, because I think listening sometimes to the wrong people or wanting to surround yourself and get everybody's approval or whatever when you're young and you do something like that. And kind of what Ryan had said before, my grandmother had said, if you can count 5 people on your hand that are truly going to inspire you and truly are your friends, sometimes you find that out as you go through life. And so there were times that maybe I didn't go out for something or do something because my friends weren't or they don't want to. And then I learned very quickly, and this was probably in elementary school, is I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And as scared as I was, I remember I had wanted to go out for cheerleader. It was they were called the Gophers. And I remember the first year I didn't do it because my friends didn't want to. They didn't want me to. And I'm like, no, so I went ahead and tried out. And to my amazement and surprise, I made it. But that kind of set the tone for me and made me realize through life, because it not only happened then, but it happened in college. I joined a sorority, and it wasn't the right one because there was a clique. And it wasn't about cliques. It's about help. I was just taught differently. So through life, I think you're grounded from the day of birth, when going back to our parents. And what I learned was that there are always going to be people that are going to try to push you down or tell you not to do this. But I think you have to listen to your heart and listen to who you are and do it anyway. You may fail, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. Even if you fail, I think it's a success because you tried anyway. So that's what I want to leave you with. Ryan?
Yeah, I would say I'm giving a lot of thought to this one. I would say my biggest mistake that I've learned from is when I left for college, there was a lot of resentment I felt towards certain aspects of my senior year in high school. There was a lot of people who, were very unkind to me, and it made me very bitter, and it made me want to forget a lot of my past. And for the longest time, even coming back home for me was hard because I just had all this anger inside. And as I've grown older and as I've been able to reflect and drive down from Colorado here all the time, it makes me realize how this soil, this land, the people from our beautiful communities, a lot of who I am is because of the state of New Mexico. And just there's something so special about this place. And as I look back and I'm like, Ryan, and I understand emotions get in any situation in life, there's always the emotions, but you have to look at every situation you're in a positive and reflective manner. And I would say that was my biggest mistake, is just trying to let go of certain aspects of my story when they were just so important to growth and reflection and internal confidence.
And I think that's perfect, Ryan. And I think both of us, we just want to leave you with what we were hoping today. We're sharing both our stories about passion. And I was really excited about this one because this webinar really comes from the heart. And I think this was something fairly easy for me and Ryan to do because we talk about this every day. When we have our motivational Mondays, we come up with so many different ideas that we know people aren't doing that we want to do. And we continue to move on. And so I just would hope that your takeaways today were that no matter where you sit, what seat you're in, maybe you're in the wrong seat and you need to move to another seat. That's all. But all I know is that what I have found out, everybody has a strength. You just have to find it. You have to be brave and courageous to step out into the comfort zone and go out and try it anyway. And imagine the possibilities, be the change. You never know what's going to happen next. We're in a perfect environment right now, finding those opportunities like we mentioned before. There are so many new business opportunities, creative opportunities that are just simply amazing. And I will be actually giving another workshop. I'm going to go back to this slide. It's going to be on June 14th, Creative Cultural Entrepreneurship. It's a webinar at 11:30. And in this one, it's kind of you're actually going to hear from 3 or 4 speakers. And some of them are going to be there. Will be Giovanna Papanetti and Norma Naranjo from the Feasting Place. Liana Sanchez from Banyo. You're going to hear their story. They're living their passion, doing what they love to do. And so this is sort of kind of the next step that we will be featuring then. And Chris, was there any more questions? Because I'm looking at the time and.
No, there aren't any more questions in the Q&A.
Okay, because I know our time is up. And so again, Ryan, thank you so much for co-presenting with me today. It was a real pleasure. And I'm just really proud of you on everything that you're doing. And although I've been your mentor, you're also motivating me. And I just want to thank you for that. And to all of you, I just want to make it a great day. Get out today and, like Ryan said, have the word of the day. What is going to be your word tomorrow? What's going to ignite you? And just start one step at a time, one habit at a time, and then put on that positive hat and you'll see things change, and be proactive. So thank you very much for the workshop, for joining us today, and we will see you later. And thank you, Ryan, very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you both. I'm going to end the recording.